All right. Oh my gosh. We will open up this meeting for the third time of the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal and informal session for August 13th of 2020. And Commissioner Sarah, can you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Move on to public comment. And due to COVID-19 and social distancing requirements, we encourage anyone wishing to submit general public comment or comments on agenda items to do so in written format via email at bocinfo@co.yamhill.or.us or by mail at 535 Northeast 5th Street, McMinnville, Oregon 97128. Any comments received prior to the meeting will be shared with the Board of Commissioners and submitted to the record. And Carolina, I saw that you forwarded to us the public comments that we received.
And I have your copy right. I have your copy right here, Carolina.
Perfect. Thank you. And I believe that we've all read the ones that I've read, all the ones that came in up to about 9:55.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And thank you very much for submitting public comment. We really appreciate hearing from you. I think that's safe to say. We'll move on to item D, which is the consent agenda, and we have none today. Move on to item E, which is old business, and we have none. Move on to item F, which is other business. And item F1 is consideration of approval of the purchase of Dell licenses in the amount of $99,087.20 for the 2020 through 2021 fiscal year. And this would be Windows 10 on enterprise licenses in the amount of $47,562.90, and the SQL server and Windows data center licenses in the amount of $51,524.30. And Ken, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, this is just part of our annual licensing.
Yep.
For maintaining our network and our systems.
Great. What?
I would move approval of item F1.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The record show unanimous approval of item F1. Item F2 is consideration of approval of amendment number 2 to an agreement between Yamhill County and Siemens Industry, which is board order 19-504 for modifications to the programmable logic controller / virtual machine software, also known as the PLC/VMS system upgrade in the Yamhill County Correctional Facility, adding additional equipment and increasing the not to exceed amount by $4,488.
Yeah,
Richard, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think, Commissioner, as we've gone through this project with Siemens, there's always a lot of the little things you forget or things that need to be updated during that length of a project. And the PLC was one, so I would make a recommendation that we approve item number F2.
All right, thank you. Any further comments, Commissioner? Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you. It's really nice seeing this continuing to move forward. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The record show unanimous approval of item F2. Item F3 is consideration of approval of intergovernmental agreement number 200022 between Yamhill County Health and Human Services and the Oregon Judicial Department on behalf of the 25th Judicial District Court, not to exceed $124,716, retroactive to July 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2021. And
I just had a clarification. So this is for half of the drug court coordinator, half of the FTE for the drug court coordinator.
That's my understanding.
That's what I understood.
And
it's a pass through.
Okay.
These were funds that used to be covered between the two entities with an MOU. The Judicial Department legal counsel has now advised them that they should have IGAs for these. So I actually received a copy of this from the courts before I saw it from Lindsay. So I'm still working with both the courts, working with their counsel to try and revise and update the agreement. And so
okay.
It's the first time they've done these, which is also why they're asking it to be retroactive to almost a year and a half. Yeah. So ultimately, I would ask that you approve this subject to the final review and approval of county council. And hopefully we'll have that done in the next week to 10 days.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for those details.
Also move that we, with Christian's amendment, we approve it based on legal counsel's review.
All right. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The record show unanimous approval of item F3, subject to review by county council. Great. Thank you. Item F4 is consideration of approval of the Criminal Justice Commission Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant Agreement between Yamhill County and the state of Oregon to support 6 COVID-19 pandemic sub-program projects of the Department of Community Justice and the Sheriff's Office, not to exceed amount of $633,372.
This one I can't talk about.
Okay, great. I was going to offer to Commissioner Olson.
The one thing I would highlight
Okay.
with this
Thank you.
is this is also just to add some further clarification. This is a 2-year grant. And essentially the Department of Community Justice and the Sheriff's Office jointly put forward this application, and there's a number of enhancements in response to managing for and responding to COVID-19, both in the jail and then also with community corrections, with adult corrections and some programming there. So these funds were made available, and it's there's a list of projects that are attached to the agreement. So we were successful in getting awarded these funds. So it's a number of projects that I know the sheriff is getting ready to implement in the jail with this funding.
Yep.
And then also Jessica, for things where they need to shelter, or transport, or services to help sustain or support services, or the impact of COVID-19.
Yeah, it's really good to see this. That's right.
I have a couple of questions regarding the Juliet's House PPE and other supplies. It lists $36,936. Is that that's a large amount? Do we have any more detail on what that is for?
I could, I don't have the exact information in front of me, but I could talk to Jessica Beach and I can get an answer for you on what the particular details of what they asked for those elements of the project.
And the other question I would have is regarding the health and safety compliance officer, and where does that one live?
So that one lives in the sheriff's office. That one they're looking at because of the concerns around having a potential COVID-19 outbreak, and you have a population that's living in there, and you have a lot of not just employees, but you have bookings that are occurring and people coming in. So this position is to support the sheriff's office in safety and emergency and addressing issues and implementing best practices to help lessen the potential exposure or outbreak in that facility.
Right. Yeah, I was actually been wondering whether there was somebody who was dedicated to that and how we had balanced that. So
that's one position for 239
for 2 years.
For 2 years. Is that a sheriff's office employee, a deputy, a designated deputy, or is that a new hire?
More details exactly on what the sheriff. I think when they did the original application, there was a short turnaround, and they came up with ideas and identified needs, areas of need, and put this together. And I think that there's still work to be done on the actual implementation of what it's going to look like.
And also the thermal imaging system, that's at the sheriff's office.
That's for the jail.
For the correctional
That's for the
facility.
jail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was intended to, as part of the screening process, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's to have the thermal imaging there at the booking, so when folks are coming in, that you can more readily identify people that may be symptomatic coming to the facility, so they can take necessary precautionary measures to make sure that they're isolated from the rest of the population, and also from staff.
So these are just estimates on what these would cost for 2 years.
Correct.
And the housing, this is just an estimate from Jessica's perspective of what it would cost.
Yes, and the jail as well. I mean, that's a combination, because
Right.
if we need to look at an alternative to house jail, where we may have to house elsewhere. Or if Jessica also, some of this, there's some BOC funds that will be coming in to help with, if there's further releases coming out of prison, because of potential outbreaks or issues within the prison system, is having a means and funding available to help offset those costs if we need to shelter someone.
And if the money isn't spent, is that money that, as far as how that's got to be accounted for, is that returned, or is that something that just stays with the
I
department?
believe this is a reimbursement, so.
That was what I understood, but let me
And that would be just
confirm.
up to this amount would be reimbursable.
It says not to exceed, so that,
Okay.
yeah, I think you're right, Commissioner, that it would be money funds that are not expended will not be.
Okay, thank you. Thank
They'll
you.
never come to us, I guess, would be a way to think of it.
Got it, okay. So,
And I would also just further add these, we did have placeholders that, because the application was made in June, so we did make adjustments to both of their budgets to have placeholders in their budget, so they have expenditure authority
Okay, great.
for these grant funds.
go ahead.
And from my recollection, the grant application, when it came through our hands, it had a little bit more detail about some of the, as opposed to just the line,
Okay.
it just has a line like Juliet's house and then 36,000, or I'm sorry, 16,000. But yeah.
Correct.
So I'm trying to remember. I scanned them all, but
I don't remember them.
I can see the thermal imaging line, and that's the only thing I actually remember.
And just to be clear on the disbursement, it's dispersed in a single installment,
Oh,
no
okay.
later
Okay.
than September 5th. And then we'll do quarterly financial reporting
Okay.
on how the funds are being spent.
All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
And then it does say any unexpended funds at the time of termination are returned to CJC.
Perfect. Well, I would entertain a motion, but I can also do it. I move that we approve item 4. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The record show unanimous approval of item F4. Thank you. Thank you for your questions, and thank you, Ken, for clarifying. Move on to item F5, which is consideration of approval of the ODOT Transportation and Growth Management Program, or Transportation and Growth Management, also known as TGM program, Yamhill West Sider Trail Master Plan Grant Agreement between Yamhill County and the Oregon Department of Transportation in the amount of $122,280 to develop a master plan for the Yamhill West Sider Trail requiring a county match of $16,674. And commissioners or staff? I clarified with Carrie that the intent of the match component was entirely her staff time. That's how she wrote out the agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation. However, in light of the fact that that is still taxpayer funds that cover the cost of her time, I got a call this morning from Ken Wright, and he said that on behalf of the Friends, he would like to cover the cost by paying it directly to ODOT. And I checked with staff, and that's logistically works. So I was surprised by that phone call. But
A couple of things regarding this, and certainly the financial aspect has always been something that I've been concerned about. So, but I think that as I've mentioned before, when you look at the fact that we continue to go forward with a project that really has so many unknowns and so many legal considerations, I think we need to look carefully at anything we commit to do as a county. And one of the emails that we received is from Billy Matthews, and she talked about Section 5 in the general covenants of the county, where that the Rails to Trails Conservancy basically admonishes counties and any other jurisdiction that would take into consideration putting together a project like this, that they should not fragment farms. And I think we see clearly that this project does that. And also she talks about the fact that while trails in other parts of the country work with agriculture, rerouting away from farms and even indemnify farmers, it's apparent from this grant that the county continues to fixate on sticking to the right of way, no matter the adverse effects on farms. So as she points out, the tourism industry has really taken a hit, but farms and farmers continue to work and produce. And I would not be in favor of approving this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Along those lines, I really appreciated BJ's comments, and I replied to her with some more depth than replying to some of the other comments. But I think your point is well taken about a master plan and rerouting and alignments. And one thing I realized is that the master plan process, one of the components of it is alignment, I think, for lack of a better term. That in the process of going through the master planning process, if there's a place where it's really just not tenable to have the trail where it's been proposed to be, right? The master planning process would identify alternative routes in cooperation with adjacent landowners, keeping in mind that the trail corridor is its own tax lot. So that's something that I found really helpful. Is that in the planning process, we could actually identify places where it's, if BJ says this is really a no-go, then we can, the master planning consultants can identify alternative routes. And I would be in support of, identifying those places and going along with them and seeing how they can work. So I communicated that to BJ at least, because I appreciated her comments. Do you have any thoughts, Commissioner?
Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
I read a lot of the comments, and some of the comments I thought, and I did pay a lot of attention to Billy's, because she actually had some good comments in there. Here's my feeling about it. When I first became involved in the trail, when I was elected commissioner, I proposed that we do a farm impact analysis, and I also suggested that we do the farmers along the corridor basically says we can't do anything until we get a master plan. Well, here's my issue is our farm impact analysis was upheld. There was nothing wrong with the way we did the farm analysis, even though I might have done it differently. But the issue is, I think it was interesting that I see keep switching. Now that we're going to, one of their big issues was doing a master plan. And now that we're doing a master plan, they don't want that. They don't want a master plan. I mean, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Myself, I believe that this is good. If you look at all the comments, this is good for Yamhill County. It's good for the city of Yamhill. It's good for the city of Carlton, even though there may be some impacts, what I would say insignificant impacts, maybe they're more significant. I don't know, along the corridor between Carlton and Yamhill. I can't believe that this isn't the best for Yamhill County. And being that Ken right now is acknowledged to pay that share, and there will be no money out of the pockets, I see no reason not to continue.
And I apologize. If I had known earlier, I would have made sure that that was in the record. He just called me as I was walking here. So, Ken, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I it's just highlighting. I mean, this was a grant application that the county submitted for, and we've had early on in the process. Around the time of the acquisition, we worked with the National Park Service, and there was a feasibility study that was done looking at the corridor in response to a lot of the feedback and concerns that were expressed that we need to get a master planning process put together. It's the reason why the county pursued this grant with TGM for ODOT to start a master planning process for the corridor. Of course, we're going to the focus is looking at the county-owned property, which is right now that corridor. But like you were saying, master planning processes, they look at the corridor, the alignment, the feasibility. It's an in-depth look at mitigation strategies, buffers. You start getting into design elements on the actual trail, the size of the trail. A lot of the questions that have been brought forward through the public meetings and the public processes that we've had leading up to this point. And that's what this grant will do in working with ODOT is providing not only the potential outcome of having an overall master plan for the trail and what it look like, but it also facilitates even further community dialogue, and it's subject to several benchmarks and public meetings that have to occur, and then eventual adoption of the final master plan at the end. So it's a multi-step process that's going to be involved with this. It's going to be a lot of on-the-ground work. It's going to have a lot of public engagement. It's going to have solicitation of public input on the project and the elements of the project and what's included in the corridor. And so it's a large project. And so that's all I have is just again to highlight what this process and what the application.
I think I have one more comment.
Oh yeah, please.
Go back to what Ken said. After I read through the contract, read through the deliverables, and say that's, there are a lot of organizations belong to it, but I'm glad to see, even though they may not want it, that 3 of the property owners along the trail are on that committee, or were put on that committee. So it's not like we're ignoring because they've been put on that committee.
Yeah.
I just have
Yes,
one
please.
more comment.
Yeah.
I've always felt that this was a cart before the horse project, that there were so many of the way the process worked really did really not go in a linear fashion. And a lot of the comments about we're going to have input, we're going to have lots of time for public comment, we're going to have people's input. This project has been going on for how many years now? Could we say, was it what year? 10, 12 years?
Depends on where you want to start.
Yeah.
Let's just say, just to keep it out as a nice.
We took ownership in 17. I think we applied for the money in 14, but I know there were, plans and efforts being made to protect the corridor development before that.
So it's been going on a while,
and our TSP, then, yeah.
And I've always had concerns about the fact that of transparency and the fact that input was in fact shut down at a number of meetings. And so when you talk about wanting to now do this, and there's this commitment to do things that should have been done perhaps 10 years ago, I think it's a little disingenuous, but I know I can count. I know what the vote will be likely. So I just want to reiterate what I've been saying for the last 6 years.
Yeah. Carolina, can you just put one of our many previous votes in?
Ditto.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I do. I would personally, to Commissioner Stare, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to ignore it for just a minute. I would love to see your support of going through beginning the master planning process, but I also understand. I understand where you're coming from, so I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
Okay.
And I appreciate your comments about that the process hasn't been how you say linear, because it's funny because it is linear. It's a linear trail or whatever, it's linear park as it were, or transportation corridor. But I do see the possibility in the master plan process of working with some of the landowners who remain very concerned and active in opposition, but who remain open to the possibility of a slightly different route. Or I think I remain hopeful, I should say, about that. So we will see. And I've continued to communicate with some of the landowners in the hopes that at least maintaining a dialogue will help with that process. And, I know that Ben Van Dyke has talked about being open to realignments. I'm hoping that the master plan can get us some more of that information.
You know, there's a bike lane along West Side Road with the truck expressway, right?
Oh my gosh, we should probably have a work session about that one. Yeah. I think I sent you the document. Okay, yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've talked about it with Public Works. We'll talk about it again some other time.
Unless Commissioner Starrett has any other comments,
no.
I don't think she does.
Okay.
I will recommend approval of the ODOT Transportation Growth Management, TGM, Program Hills West South Trail Master Plan Grant Agreement between Yamhill County and the Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT, in the amount of $122,208 to develop a master plan of the Yamhill West South Road. Then I want to make it, I'd like a little amendment.
Mhm.
The trail requiring a county or other private match of $16,670.
Okay, that's good. Does that,
Could I just make a suggestion that not or, but making the amendment that it's not a county match, but that it is a match which has been,
yeah,
Yeah, I
Committed.
I can do that.
Mhm.
So it's,
I think that will be very clear that it sounds like it would have to come to us, and then we would send the money on to ODOT. So it would require a bit of an amendment in terms of that this isn't going to be staff time that matches the ODOT. Right, it'll be a cash match as opposed to a staff time match.
private contribution.
Yeah,
I think the challenge, I'm trying to,
I mean, I don't know the logistics. This just came up this morning.
yeah.
Perhaps it would be appropriate to say that we've had an offer for a private citizen to provide
cover the county.
to cover the amount of the county's match.
Or reimburse the county for the county's match or something.
I can buy that because it definitely does say the county doesn't pay the match, somebody. So by your wording, Mary, and taking out the county or other, and just say private match, citizen match, whatever you want to call it. So the county isn't providing the match.
And if for whatever reason that doesn't work logistically or contractually, we'll come back and let you know, but I expect that it should.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, and then the way that it reads with the matching amount, it sounds like there's the flexibility in there within the existing, although he's the contract lawyer. Okay, we've got our motion down. Okay, great. Thanks for the amendments, both commissioners. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Let the record show. This is
You should really have this down by now, Commissioner.
You know, I always say all the time that most decisions the county commissioners make are unanimous, and this is why it's hard for me to remember. Let the record show that Commissioners Olson and Kula voted in the affirmative, and Commissioner Sterrett voted in the negative. Motion passes. Thank you. I am a creature of habit, as are most of us. We will move on. Thank you, everybody. We move on to item F6, which is consideration of approval of amendment number 1 to the agreement between Yamhill County and Parametrics Incorporated, just board order 18-123, to add funding in the amount of $4,500 for additional sampling of the Whiteson landfill. Ken, do you have anything to add? I think the memo is pretty clear.
Yeah, I think
Actually,
actually, I think,
provided a memo. And,
Yeah.
yeah, this is some additional work to be added to a contract that we entered into with Parametrics a couple of years ago. So a little bit of extra work.
Yep. And I'm happy to see that we are carefully watching the Whiteson landfill, especially in light of our decision last week. So
are the folks around the Whiteson landfill.
this is very, very true. Well, I would move approval. Or are there any further comments? Okay, I would move approval of item F6. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Let the record show unanimous approval of item F6. Item F7 is consideration of approval to appoint Levon Avery to the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Committee, term to expire May of 2022. And Commissioner Sterrett, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just enthusiastic approval for this application. So I would move approval if there's no other questions.
No other questions?
To appoint Levon Avery to the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Committee.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The record show unanimous approval of item F7. Item F8 is consideration of approval of a letter to Governor Brown regarding the reopening of private schools. And Commissioner Sterrett.
Yes.
And Commissioner Alton, no, offense. It's just she put it in the agenda, I believe. Commissioner Sarah did.
Thank you. This is just a suggestion. I have already signed on to this letter to the governor, which has been signed by everybody, a lot of elected officials, including our Secretary of State, Bev Clarno, variety of teachers and educators and parents and school board members. And this basically is just bringing up the point that the private schools will not receive any of the $28 million that public schools are being granted to offset the operational costs of dealing with training teachers and distance learning and all of that. And none of the $5 million is going to go to supply PPE. So really what we're looking at is the majority of these schools are looking likely at closing their doors. And there is no other money other than the tuition money that they can get. So I had asked the governor's office to consider perhaps giving a little leeway to the private schools. And I looked into finding ways that there could perhaps be a acceptable workaround, calling them day camps, calling them daycares. And all of those were met with, again, those loopholes were getting more closed. So this letter is just an appeal to the governor to say, listen, there are parents who are making great sacrifices so that they can circumvent some of the concerns they have about the government schools. And all they're asking for is to certainly submit their blueprint, do all the things that they were asked to do in the June guideline. All of those things were done. And then when the sort of the goalposts were changed, it really left them in the lurch. And parents are now going, what do I do? So we're asking the governor to allow the public schools, the private schools to, and I'm asking the rest of the board to sign on to this letter that's already been sent. And there are more people who are signing on, other commissioners, et cetera.
Well, I think.
Thanks for that background.
Yeah, Commissioner, you summed up in our last meeting with your conversations with Leah Horner, that the big push is they're afraid that public schools will see a exodus from the public schools to private schools. Because a lot of parents feel private schools, they can control them more. They have, I mean, when you look at that versus the public school, I'm a firm believer in that. So if they're more prepared, and they had it by the 20th, and all we're actually going to do is roll back to the 20th for private schools.
And so what I'm asking the board to do is to submit approval as a full board to go on to subsequent letter to the governor.
And Commissioner Starrett, I do have concerns about saying that all private schools in all parts of Oregon, given the community spread of coronavirus, that they somehow can be broadly given exceptions. And mostly that's because, as you have noted, the kind of like the hammer, you said move the goalpost, but I felt like there was a hammer, crudely put, that came down, what was it, July 28th, I think, according to the letter. That said, here is what you need to do in order to be able to have in-person. But since then, I don't think I can stretch the analogy though further with the hammer, but you probably could do this. I'm not as skilled at this, but that we've seen introductions of more exemptions as people have spoken up. Eastern Oregon County Commissioners, I was on the call on Friday, and there were some Eastern Oregon County Commissioners who said, here's my situation here. I think Crook County was an example of this, where they have too many people in their residents in their community to meet the standards of the below 30,000, but they meet the other one, and so they said, well, we're kind of lost in this in-between space. And so then the governor's office and the ODE recently updated to have another category of counties. There's a new one that's specific to cohort size for in-person learning during comprehensive distance learning, which is confusing to me, but I read through it and I saw that a lot of schools, at least in our county, a lot of private schools would meet those standards. So even in a time when county-wide, we're not meeting the coronavirus transmission rate reductions that we need to see. Schools that are inherently smaller and more dispersed are going to be able to meet that. And specifically some of our private schools. And I don't know all the details of it. I do know that I reached out with specifically to Jody Christensen about one school in particular. And we were hoping that it would meet the same criteria that higher ed is meeting. And unfortunately, it didn't meet those criteria. But a lot of the other schools are going to meet some version of the exemptions. And so I would hesitate to just say that all private schools are somehow able to withstand this community spread of coronavirus. But I do see that there's a lot of options, but it's one of those things where you have to really closely read, the different, like each school is going to have to decide for itself whether it meets one of the, the in-person during CDL or the county metrics. So I wouldn't support it simply because I think that in communities where there's extensive community spread, private schools are not going to be immune to the transmission of the virus.
Well, one of the things that
but thanks for waiting.
No, that's okay. I understand. One of the things that I've been in discussions, for instance, with the Delphian School, and they're not part of this effort, but I know that they have some concerns, and they had originally wanted an exemption. They worked for an exemption because they have international students, and some of these students have been staying with host families in the West Valley, just waiting to come back to school. But they voluntarily shut their 720-acre campus down, sent everybody home, and didn't bring in day students. And what they applied for with this exemption was to have their international students come back after they've been significantly tested, do all of the protocol for health, and not allow day students to come back, and they were still denied this exemption. And you know that for families and also for staff and the economy in the West Valley, this is significant. So when we look at what the impact will be to these small schools, I think it's important for us to try to protect them. And none of them are doing anything outside what the original guidelines were for all of the schools. And they're doing every possible workaround. So I guess what I'm asking, if you would not agree to sign on to it, Mr. Chair, is that Commissioner Olson, if I could just submit your name as signing on to support this letter to the governor.
Well, mine's already on the initial list.
Your name is on there?
Yeah. That's been since Dr. Kevin a week and a half or a week. Yeah, my name. I had trouble finding it, but it's not in alphabetical order.
It's on this list?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, then.
Does he have it somewhere publicly available? Because I noticed that his name was not on the letter that you provided to us, but it was on the letter that I received.
Okay,
I should say Councilor Maddox, Kevin Maddox, because he sent me the letter. That's how I saw it, and then his name was at the bottom of it.
Okay, I'm not seeing it on this
Then
one.
you had to find it.
But it has been.
Yeah, here.
Do you want this? This is the original letter.
Right.
I did note that on the one
This
that
is
we were given in the
revised
comments,
that went out as the original.
in the public comment, there was a congressman-elect. Did you see that?
Congressman-elect?
Yeah. So I think on the first or second.
We haven't had the election. That's why I thought it was funny.
There's a commissioner-elect on.
Yeah, so that's much more appropriate. I just thought it was funny that it was a congressman-elect because we haven't had the general election yet.
That's optimism.
Yeah, and I definitely recognize that he will likely, and he's a worthy person to take Greg Walden's place.
And yeah, Congressman Greg Walden has signed the letter and submitted
Yes.
his own letter. But anyway, we'll make sure that, Commissioner, that letter, that your name.
But that, we had that revised letter that went out with more names on it.
Okay.
That may be it, but I think it was on the original.
So, but I would like for the record to have a vote for the entire board to submit their name for this letter. So I would make a motion that we, as a board, sign on to the letter to Governor Brown to support the reopening of private schools.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Oh, aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let the record show Commissioners Olson and Starrett voted in the affirmative and Commissioner Kula in the negative. And the motion passes. Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And thank you to everybody who submitted testimony as well. Move on to item 9, F9, which is consideration of adopting resolution 20-08-13-1 proclaiming August of 2020 as Child Support Awareness Month. And are there any comments or discussion? We have it. Do you have it in front of you? I have it.
You have to read it.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you wanted to read it, I'd be happy to.
No, thank you.
Okay.
It's on the revised. I don't see it here.
I'll mention
Revised
it.
one we put out to check that out.
Thank you for signing up.
Let me get a sip of water first then. All right, Commissioners, the resolution 20-08-13-1 in the Board of Commissioners of the State of Oregon for the County of Yamhill, sitting for the transaction of county business in the matter of a resolution recognizing August 2020 as Child Support Awareness Month, which is also known as Resolution 20-08-13-1. Whereas Yamhill County joins the nation in recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month and reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Yamhill County families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. And whereas children are Yamhill County's most valuable resource and all residents of Yamhill County have a responsibility to promote and nurture their well-being. And whereas the Yamhill County Office of Child Support, a division of the Yamhill County District Attorney's Office, and in partnership with the Oregon Department of Justice Division of Child Support, works to help families achieve financial stability, which is vital to ensure children grow and thrive. And whereas Child Support Awareness Month is a reminder that children need the emotional and financial support of both parents to reach their full potential, and is the responsibility of parents to help them grow into healthy, productive adults. And whereas Child Support Awareness Month recognizes working parents who spend time with their children and who make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. And whereas Yamhill County child support professionals are vital assets to the county, collecting child support and working in cooperation with parents and other partners to ensure families receive quality services and ensuring children can rely on their parents to meet their basic needs is a critical function of the office. And whereas by declaring August as Child Support Awareness Month, Yamhill County shines a light of hope and support on children by fostering strong families and responsible parenting, encouraging all Yamhill County residents to look to the future of our county, its children, and work together to create opportunities to ensure their success. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners, on behalf of the citizens of Yamhill County, hereby recognizes the month of August as Child Support Awareness Month, done this 13th day of August, 2020. Thank you.
I would move approval, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. The records show unanimous approval of item F9. All right, thank you. Okay, that sounds good. Move on to item F10, which is discussion of Linn County emergency declaration regarding school openings. And the Linn County order is included in the packet as an example.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
County Council and I had a discussion about this and whether or not this was the appropriate vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I'll just ask County Council to give us the.
I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you had the conversation already.
Yeah.
I haven't heard back. I reached out to Linn County Council. I haven't heard back yet.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
Oh, sorry. I reached out to the Linn County Council. I haven't heard back yet as to how it is they came to use this approach. As we discussed, I don't think there's anything that would prohibit you if the board chose to use the same form of action, declaring an emergency. However, I haven't seen an emergency declaration used this way before. Our emergency declarations and others that I've seen, they declare an emergency, and that then triggers a number of different things that the county can then do in response to that emergency. Requesting resources is one of those items, but it also generally says, well, now we can spend money this way. We can suspend rules. We can issue new policies. So it would generally be, okay, we have an emergency and we want to do the following things. This does that, but then it says, we've declared an emergency, but we're asking the state for assistance. It's a little bit unusual. If we wanted to ask the state for assistance, we could do it in the form of a resolution or a letter. Or like I said, you could choose to do something similar to what Lynn County's done. But again, I haven't seen an emergency declaration used in quite this way before.
Okay. Well, then I would make a recommendation at this point that since we're a little unclear as to whether or not this is the appropriate vehicle, and there are a lot of questions from a lot of different counties about this, wanting to do something similar but not knowing if this is the right thing, if I might make a suggestion that I come back with a resolution for next week to look at that in lieu of this.
That sounds great. I was hoping that, because that was what I was going to suggest, but I didn't want to, suggest that you do.
If what you're considering is sort of suggesting to the governor that they change some of the practices or parameters around school reopening, I think a resolution would be the appropriate way to do that.
All right. So do we need a motion for this item, or is this just a discussion item?
I think we'll just come back to it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we can prepare a document along the same lines.
And then once the resolution is coming forward, it'll go on the agenda for next week.
And as we've talked about before, and I strongly support directing money that is either at the state level or that's in theory coming to us that we need to use towards childcare access and youth activities and enrichment for them. So this, it's important to me in light of at least public schools not having in-person classes in the fall, especially in light of that. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will submit something then.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing it up, and thank you for having the conversation already. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item G, which is public hearings, and we have none today. Move on to item H, which is announcements.
I have no announcements today.
Okay.
I mean, I have them, but I just don't feel like saying them. So I'll have next week.
Okay.
For next week.
That sounds great. And how, Commissioner Sterrett, but also how can you update us on your phone call yesterday?
Yes, and I'll be real quick.
Okay.
So basically, I just want to say that one of the updates I wanted to share was that the City Council McMinnville did approve the zone change for the multifamily use on the Norton Way property. So
Fantastic.
The Housing Authority is now set to begin the project for hopefully 200 units of affordable housing, which will be really much needed in our area.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, an update on the call with the governor's spokesperson, Leah Horner. Yesterday, we talked about, so the bottom line is the travel ban is on the back burner, quote. And that's a good thing for a lot of people who are holding their breath as far as whether they can get on a plane this week or next week. So for now, it's on the back burner. The mask guideline update is that in office settings, if you cannot maintain 6 feet of distance, you must wear a mask. And so I asked for clarification, and Ms. Horner said, for instance, if you're at your desk and you can't maintain that distance, but you're going to the storage closet or the water cooler and you might run into someone, it's a good idea to wear your mask. That's all I have.
That was a good announcement.
The water closet. Did you say water closet?
Water cooler,
water
storage closet. Water closet,
wait,
storage cooler.
That's not what
It's very, you were very delicate in your word choice.
Very European, WC.
I was a plumber's apprentice for a long time, and so when we would write plans out, we would write WC.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. I really should pull out my notes because I was on the call with the governor's office and chairs on Friday. So just give me a second. It turns out it's hard to listen to the governor and the questions and take notes. But I hear that you're really good at it, so.
Oh, I guess that depends on who you ask. Some people wouldn't say so.
Stephen Collins, right?
Okay, so one of the governor's comments on Friday was that what she called the summer surge appears to be leveling off, and that's, you know, at this point that's old news, but that is something that the governor noted, and that came out of the modeling that I think was released last Wednesday, which shows that like we're the reproduction rate is at 1 right now. So the OHA was saying, you know, if transmission increases, then we will see an exponential rate of increase, but that if transmission decreases by 10%, we'll drop below 1, and so we'll see a rather than a tapering off, like a 1 would just be that we would constantly have between 300 and 400 new cases a day. But if we drop below 1, then it'll slowly decrease, which to me is encouraging. I keep looking forward, thinking, well, we still have a little bit of time before school, and for the fall classes, we still have a little bit of time. So, but that was one thing that she observed. That was her bit of good news. She said that there's her staff tells her that there's strong compliance with the mask use and rules, especially in retail facilities. The one question that I was hoping to get into her, which I was not able to because it's one of those like free-for-alls. Unmute yourself real quick and shout your question, was about higher ed and whether there's going to be any reopening criteria specific to higher education, which is why then we started talking about the Delphian School and whether they could be in the higher ed. Mm-hmm. I remain hopeful that that we can find a way to put them in there, but
well, I know
we'll
Linfield, I think Friday, Linfield will start accepting students on campus, and you'll see that they have a lot of the streets blocked off and their purple and red ribbons off. That the first 2 weeks that a campus or somebody moves into campus, into a dorm, they will be quarantined. And they've taken one dorm and totally set it up for if they do get any cases of COVID, those people move to that dorm. And but so Linfield's really an open campus, and it's now a closed campus. I think I have no doubt they can, you know, George Fox.
I was going to say George Fox is also.
What George Fox did and everything by making it closed campus. I think a lot of the private schools are up to handling it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And from what I understand, at least Linfield is going to do a test of each student somewhere in that range of when they come onto campus. Right. And then 1 month, I forget the interval, but sometime later as well.
Yeah, when they get their room assignment, they'll do the test right now.
Okay.
Before they even go into their room. So.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And then there were a lot of questions to the governor around youth activities and whether communities could, you know, there was a question of why Umatilla County went on to baseline. Crick County asked about whether there was a way to be, you know, an interim metric because of their status as being a smaller county, but not a rural, a truly frontier county. So there were a lot of questions around that. Chair Willis from Marion County asked about whether they could get off the watch list because they didn't feel like they were appropriately on the watch list, which you probably hear on your calls too, I'm guessing.
Yes, Commissioner Willis did bring that up.
Yeah, it's good to be persistent, right? It does, it sounds like possibly Marion County will be leaving the watch list. I always forget about what I've heard that's public or not.
Right.
But that's really it. That was the broad sweeps of the conversation. The 17% positive rate in Hermiston is apparently what drove the governor to move Umatilla back 2 phases, right, from phase 2 to baseline. So
McMinnville City Council, McMinnville government elections, everybody is filed for re-election, except Wendy Stassens. And there's two people that filed for her spot. Well, David Anderson filed, then he dropped out. So I think there's one right now, but Wendy, who I love dearly, she says the kind of homes they build, the market is much better for them in Bend and Lapine and everything. Because we're going to so much, really affordable housing, that's not really up there.
Sure.
So they're going over to Central Oregon.
Yeah, that's it. And then at some point, I'm learning all about the Highway 47 and reroutes and West Side Road as a county route or a truck route. So once we can get more information from ODOT, I know that Director Lago has reached out to ODOT about that, and I have too.
ODOT's waiting to put out candy, in ODOT's own words, ain't gonna happen, never will. It'll take 20 to 25 years to develop, because it's not just adding a truck lane. Then they have to go, part of it has to be outside of the right of way. So they have to go through the environmental impact studies.
Wait, what is this for?
This is for the truck lane on West Side Road.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, ODOT says, ain't gonna happen.
Huh. Then why did they give us the document?
Well, no, they gave it as an option. They wanted to give an option. But the construction cost, because they basically have to put in a whole new road bed.
Yeah.
So
that's actually what I told them. Yeah. I said, please, if you're going to do this, build us a new road.
Well, and you did well by telling them.
Well, at least they were honest.
They didn't say no.
Right. It's not really no.
But I hope you noted that Senator Boquist and Representative Noble's names were on the documents prominently as having an interest in a different location. So yeah, we'll see. But I will keep you posted. From my perspective, this is obviously a long conversation, but there are several bridges on West Side. We just went through the bridge inventory that need upgrades because we have county log trucks that are hauling on that route already, and they need to be safe. So. And they also need a route, which if we get a bridge that hits the sufficiency rating, then they won't be able to haul.
No.
And I think we need to make sure that that's still a viable route for them.
Well, that's an easy solution. Just get a smaller log truck.
2 instead of 1.
Trucks.
Okay, that's it for me. Yes, Christian.
One quick announcement. I just wanted to wish my father-in-law, Jim McDaniel, a happy 92nd birthday.
Woo!
Happy birthday.
Nice.
Yeah. And congratulations, Timbers.
I know. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Sorry, that was 2.
It was 2. Should we sing happy birthday to him?
It's up to you, but you don't have to.
Okay.
I don't have it. I can't follow that.
No, you really can't, actually.
I just have one question. Is your father-in-law watching this?
He made it look like.
Not if he's smart.
I hope not. He's got a lot of other better things to do. He was given a whole stack of books for his birthday this morning, so hopefully he's enjoying those.
I was going to say,
he might be watching. I don't know.
I was going to say this would probably not add to his longevity.
I'm not a big soccer dude, but I will give Christian one good comment.
Well, happy birthday and many more.
Go Timbers. Good job.
And go Timbers, Carolina. Okay, thank you. And reminder that we have an executive session immediately after this, and I will close this meeting of the Emerald County Board of Commissioners. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Can I take a 2-minute break?